You see, under the law, that is Article 324, it's mandatory to have a CEC. And the number of election commissioners to be appointed is to be determined by the president. Now, while in Dhanwa, that's way back in 1991, the Supreme Court said that, election commissions entrusted with very vital functions. And therefore, it's not desirable that you have only in such an institution of such powers to conduct elections for the country. It's not desirable to just have one member. So they did say that it would not be democratic to vest such vast powers in one person, and such person not being accountable to anyone. That is CEC. So therefore, they were of the view that yes, election commission would be with the CEC and other members, such as election commissioners, to be appointed. So therefore, having just one person, that is the CEC, to conduct the present elections, in light of Dhanwa, may not be a democratic setup for a country, number one. But subsequently, when session judgment came in 1995, there is a categorical observation there which says that election commission can be of a single person, that's the CEC, or multiple members. Now, taking the two together, it is possible to have an election commission with just the CEC. And let's not forget that even before Dhanwa judgment came, where, the gentleman was appointed first as a member, then his was revoked, and that whole issue came up, there was a single CEC who would conduct the elections. So in the past, that's much prior to 90s, elections were conducted by one CEC. And even today, if we go by session, it is possible to have just one CEC to conduct the elections. Now, therefore, the Election Commission can function. But that observation in Dhanwa, where you are vesting this vast power of conduct of elections for this nation in just one person who's completely unaccountable, leaves you with the sense of, that yes, something is required to be done. We need a balance there, and we cannot leave this thing in the hands of just one individual. So it's a sense of discomfort, if I may say so.
Left, an election has not yet been announced. So do you see some kind of crisis? And what is the way out that Lok Sabha election is conducted smoothly?
I was just recalling that for your election of 2019, you had issued a press release, if I'm not mistaken, on 10th of March or so, and the results were announced on 23rd of May. And that, I presume, is because the Lok Sabha would stand dissolved on the 5th of June. So as of now, the Lok Sabha will stand dissolved on 5th of June, so you have to return the parliament before 5th of June, in any case. I agree with you that unless and until you don't announce the election now, and given the size of our democracy and our country, last time we've had an election which spanned out over more than a month. So you still need more than a month, and you have time only till the end of May. So therefore, while, as I told you earlier, that it is open to the Chief Election Commissioner, he can announce, because session said that it can be single member or it can be multiple member. So a single member is also an election commission. He can, if he wants to, announce the elections. But whether we as a polity want to repose that kind of a trust in a single person is a thing that we need to really consider. Number two, if we do not complete our elections by 5th of June, then the parliament stands dissolved. Then under the constitution, you have to return the parliament. The maximum time that you have is 6 months, which is again Article 85, which says within 6 months, that's the time frame that you have. But I do hope that an incident like this does not result in calling for that position that we give the time of 6 months to hold an election. No, elections are important for a country. We are a democratic setup. And therefore, I do believe that everything must be done to appoint an election commissioner. But having said that, I will add my 2 caveats here. Number 1, after the 2023 judgment of the Supreme Court, where they said that for the purpose of appointment of an election commissioner, you would have the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition or the leaders of the largest party, and the Chief Justice. Now, that has been overreached by the amendment, that the law that was brought in to say the Prime Minister, member of the Cabinet Minister, and the leader of the opposition or the largest party. That is under challenge. And that has also a sense of great discomfort because you have 2 votes is to 1. The Cabinet Minister is obviously going to be the voice of the Prime Minister. So the independence in appointment of an election commission, which is going to have an election for a democracy and which is integral to us, stands to be compromised. If you have 2 is to 1, that's not an equal voting. That's not an election of an independence. So, and that matter is pending before the Supreme Court. Although there is no stay, but I think that's going to be an issue of immediate debate now before the Supreme Court as to what is the way forward, whether we go back to the judgment of the court with 2023 judgment, or we go by the law that is pronounced on which there is no stay, or whether there's a stay that is required and have an interregnum. But I want to put my little thing before I part with this, and that is, look, we've had 1 resignation, Lavasa, at 2019 election. We've had the 2nd resignation immediately before the election now. I think Election Commission occupies a very significant position in our democracy, in our institutions in the country. Why would you have 2 such resignations? There is a need for transparency. There is a need for the country to know the reasons why. And so that if there is a corrective measures that are required, we as a nation can take. But we cannot have this thing where people resign on the eve of the election, leaving the country in a, it's a nation in a disarray to that extent. And why should there not be transparency and light on what is the reasons for these resignations? Somebody, either they stand up, who occupy, they have a constitutional post, mind you, that's a constitutional provision. And if you're going to demit on the eve of the election, I think there had better be very good reasons, and there is a need for this country and all of us as citizens to know what is the reason for that. I think that to me is a very significant thing, the transparency, the light on all of this to happen.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं मानक गुप्ता। अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें, और हां, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए न्यूज़ 24।